What if I told you momentum was a lie?
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Zaiem Beg, and I'm with Davy Jones' Locker Room, where we cover the Seattle Torrent and the Seattle Kraken. And welcome to Locked On Kraken. On today's episode, we are going to look at the Kraken playoff chances and how cooked are they at this point after a very poor showing after the Olympic break. We look at Jani Nyman, who has been sent down back to Coachella Valley after a brief and uneventful recall, and where does he fit into the organization? But first, is momentum real? What if I told you? What if I told you that winning streaks don't mean what you think they mean? What if I told you that when a team wins 3 in a row and they got momentum going in the next game, what if I told you that that was an illusion? That every time a team turned a corner, that the hot streaks and the cold streaks and the wheels are coming off? What if that was just noise and narratives and dressing up patterns, because that's what brains do? Well, let's test it. So I ran just a simple question. If a team just won a game, are they more likely to win the next one beyond what their overall record would already predict? So because, and that last part is really important, because a 50-win team, if they win a game, they're more likely to win their next game than a 20-win team is more likely to win the next game, just because the 50-win team is much better. So the question isn't whether good teams win more, it's whether winning itself makes you more likely to keep winning. And so this is what I did. This is my methodology. All right. You take a team that finishes 41-41. So it's a perfect 500 team. Now, you pick any win during their season. Let's say they won game 30. All right. What are the odds that they also won game 31? Because they won game 30, so maybe there's some momentum, right? Well, if you take out that game 30 win, right, and you say, okay, of their 41 wins, one of them is 30. So you remove that for a second. You say, all right, they have 40 wins left spread across the other 81 games. If momentum does not exist, then those wins and losses would be distributed randomly. If you just have a 500 team playing 82 independent games, and if they're a 41-41 team, if you remove one of those wins, then the probability that the next game is also a win is 40 out of 81. You have 40 remaining wins out of 81 remaining games, and that is 49.4. And you can do this for any point total. A 50-win team, after you remove the known win, they have 49 wins remaining in 81 games, and they have an expected streak rate of 60.5%. A 30-win team is 29-81, and 35.8%. So it's a clear, clean, linear relationship. Better teams have higher streak rates, but only because they win more games, more overall, if momentum doesn't exist, right? So right now, we're operating the assumption that momentum doesn't exist and that winning does not beget winning. So if momentum is real, the actual streak rate should be noticeably higher than the expected rate. Because if this is just, okay, by random, these are random probabilities, and you say, okay, well, 60.5%. If you actually look at the times that a team does go on a run and momentum's real, then that effect should start showing up. And you'll start to see, okay, yeah, wow, this team that's won 5 in a row is now winning at a rate that's higher than what the win percentage overall would suggest over the season. Because overall, maybe they're a 500 team, but right now, they're playing like a 800 team. And the previous winning is the reason for that. That's driving that. Well, if you look at the win rates of range, and this is going back to 2005. you have very small deviations between the actual win rate and the expected win rate. In other words, if momentum exists, then the actual win rate should be considerably higher than in the expected, and we see that is not the case at all. It's just it's within 1%, less than 1%, and overall, when you look at the sum total, it's a wash. There is no effect whatsoever. All right. Well, okay, but maybe momentum doesn't just come from a win. Maybe it comes from something special, like a big blowout. You'd be a blowout team. You win by a bunch of goals, or a comeback, or an overtime win, or a 3-goal comeback against the Florida Panthers for losing in a shootout. As a hypothetical. So I looked at that too, and looked at what happens with types of wins. If a team that blew out a team, the probability of them winning actually drops slightly by 0.65%. Notice these are very, very small numbers, which means it's probably just noise, right? I mean, we're talking about 0.5% here. If you had a comeback win, it's like +5. If you lost, you got blown out, then you have more of a bump than you would of a comeback win. But again, it's 0.5%. Like, this is just, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to this. And these are tiny, tiny, tiny little things, tiny little margins that are sometimes a little bit negative, sometimes a little positive, sometimes, you won by a lot, so you then don't have momentum, but then you lost by a lot and you do have momentum, but then you won in overtime, and that gives you momentum. And right, it's just there's no pattern to this. It's just chance, right? If momentum exists, we would be able to see the evidence of that by the teams winning. All right. So let's look at a real team, because real teams are not coins, right? So this is a team. Then I've looked at their first 70 games, and you can see that they have some win streaks, and they have some lose streaks. They got got a long win streak there. What is that? 8 games, and then they lose 5 in a row, and they win 5 in a row, and they have another 8-game losing streak. And I was like, okay, if momentum isn't real, then explain this, right? Well, the reason why I think that is explainable is because this is actually just a coin flip. I flipped a coin 70 times, and the fake team is really just a series of coin flips. These things are streaky, right? It's surprisingly so. And if you really want to take a coin, flip it 70 times, record it, and you'll see that you're probably going to see streaks like this, just really long streaks of 8 in a row, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, whatever it is. And it really feels like it defies logic, because you're like, you flipped heads 5 times in a row, and you're like, well, there's no way it could be a 6, and then you do, and then 7 and 8, and it's like, man, like, what is going on? It's just, randomness is inherently unintuitive. And so when you look at the Kraken season, you see the same patterns, right? It's the same kind of stuff. I mean, they don't have the long win streak that even a coin flip would, our little coin flip example had, but they've got a nice long little losing streak there, and then they're winning scattered there. This is just, it's just noise. It's just, if you look at the narratives and you say, like, the bottom's falling out, something's wrong with the room, they've lost their identity, or they figured it out, they're playing confidence. Yeah, maybe, there is some truth to that. And certainly, we talk about that and dissect that, and not all situations are equal. And I certainly acknowledge that that these aren't perfect models by any stretch. But what we're doing is we're looking at actual results of actual NHL games. And we're saying, okay, well, if these results happen, then we should see the momentum carry into results of other actual games. So now we're not simulating anymore. We're just looking at what happened. And what happened is that Seattle's win rate, the 80% of those random seasons produces a win streak of 4 or longer, and 60% has a loss streak of 6 or longer. It's not unusual. It's not a sign of anything. This is just a super common result. And every narrative that we build around these streaks, with the team struggling or they're heating up or they've got momentum or they lost their mojo, a lot of that, not all of it, but a lot of it is just narrating a coin flip. So momentum, more like no momentum. Yeah. Coming up next, we're going to look at Jani Nyman, who was sent down to Coachella Valley, and we ask the question, where does he fit in the organization's long-term plans? What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Features include swaps. Trading involved significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered future commission merchant and swap firm. You've done rooftops and you've chased every happy hour, but how about one that's literally above it all? After 4 p.m., the Space Needles Pint and a Pie takes happy hour sky high, and just for $35 per person, you get entry, your choice of a sweet or savory tip-top pie, and a pint of beer, wine, or a non-alcoholic drink. Whether you're pre-gaming for the Kraken, warming up for Climate Pledge, or just here for the views, this is your night on another level. Pint and a Pie. Limited time offer, 21 plus only, minimum to purchase. Tickets at spaceneedle.com. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with other listeners of this show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Jani Nyman was sent down to Coachella Valley after a brief call up, which was a brief disaster. And I think this is a pretty interesting situation because Jani Nyman is destroying the AHL, and he is too good to be in the AHL. He should be in the NHL. But here's the dilemma that the Kraken have is, well, first of all, Jani Nyman is by no means a complete hockey player. He has some real strengths, but also some real glaring weaknesses. And the big weakness is skating. His skating has improved considerably since he was drafted and then his development over the last few years. But he still labors, right? No one's going to confuse him for Chandler Stevenson or Brandon Montour. It's a inefficient, just kind of a lumbering skating style. He's a big kid, so you get it. He has an incredibly hard shot. He has a great shot, and overall, certainly NHL quality. Here's the problem: is where he fits in the Lane Lambert system is a bit of a conundrum because Lane Lambert wants good, fast, forechecking, and not making mistakes. And the problem with a skater who is not a good skater or a below average skater or someone who is not excellent at skating or excels at skating is that it is easier to make mistakes because you don't have the speed or acceleration or explosiveness to catch up for it, right? Like when Brandon Montour makes a mistake, he can get back. He can get back real fast. Or when Chandler Stevenson makes a mistake, he can get back real fast. So then he can get in position to make another mistake. And that's not something that Jani Nyman really is. That's not his game, right? He's really good on the power play, in the one-timer spot. He's just got, I mean, his one-timer is incredible. It's the best shot on the team, I think. Maybe Jared McCann is better, but it's certainly in contention. But that's not really what Lane Lambert wants to do, or rather, that's not what he's maximizing for. He wants this system where everyone plays this really defensive, strong skating style, and Jani Nyman really struggles, and so he was called up with the injuries to Jared McCann, and then the personal leave of absence by Ryan Winterton. And so he got some playing time, and it was a disaster. He was put on the fourth line, which was not a good fit. And he was on the ice for 4 of the goals against Columbus. So let's take a look at one of them. I don't think he was like necessarily at fault for all of them, but this one definitely illustrates what we're saying. I would love to use game footage, and that is maybe something that could happen at some point. The Kraken Hockey Network, their TV partner is King 5, which is owned by Tegna, which is also the parent company of the Locked On Podcast Network. So it is maybe someday I can contact some people and we can work out some things and get the rights. But in the meantime, we have dots. And these dots are owned by me, so we have permission to use them. And I've highlighted Jani Nyman here with the yellow circle. And you see, he just doesn't really have he's been really tentative and unsure of where to go. And so he's not really affecting the play at all. Right now it goes over to 78, and he's trying to make it over to try to disrupt the shot, but he's too slow to get over. He can't get over in time. And then, shot happens, and then there's traffic in front. And I think it was just like a little thing. It was like, if Jani Nyman was a little faster, he gets over and he disrupts that shot. And now it's not a clean shot from that point. And then you're fine, right? Him being on the fourth line doesn't make a lot of sense because that's the energy line. That's the checking line. That's just go in and create chaos and create energy, right? That's the Jacob Melanson and Ryan Winterton and Ben Myers. Jani Nyman, that's not his game, like at all, right? He is not the one who's going to go in and just get in the corners and blow things up and just leave a crime scene, every time, everywhere he goes, that's a Jacob Melanson thing, right? He needs to be on a team with skilled players. I think he would, do well with Chandler Stevenson, who could set him up and set up those beautiful one-timer shots with Chandler Stevenson's passing. And he should probably be in the top 6, but where do you put him? And I think overall, because the Kraken are probably not going to make the playoffs, and we'll talk about that in the next segment. And I think this team is not going to be very good next year if they don't make a serious overhaul in the roster. And when I say not very good, I mean this team might be like a bottom 3 team, because most of their wins, a disproportionately high amount of their wins, have come from elite goaltending. And Philip Grubauer has played really well this year, but he has not played well in previous years. And then assuming that the elite goaltending will continue next season and they're going to continue to win, And they're not even winning this year, really. I mean, they're probably not going to make the playoffs in a historically weak division, and it's still a dogfight. But I think they need a major overhaul this summer, and you're probably gonna have to make some trades. You're gonna have to move some guys out, and I think Jani Nyman is a really interesting trade piece that you can use to change this roster, because you're not firing Lane Lambert. They're not gonna do 4 coaches in 4 years. So love him or hate him, which I really like Lane Lambert. You're stuck with Lane Lambert regardless, and I don't think Jani Nyman is the Lane Lambert. It's just not a great fit for what Lane Lambert wants to do. And I think, unfortunately, he might not have a real place on this roster. Coming up next, we are going to look at the Kraken playoff chances and how realistic are they, or are they cooked? There's nothing like being in an NBA arena with the crowd and the energy in the moment, but getting tickets has not always been so simple, and that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I recently purchased tickets to an NBA game, and I pulled up the Game Time app, and I picked the game, and I had tickets within minutes. I really like seeing the all-in price up front with no surprise fees at checkout, because I really hate it when you go and you see a ticket and you're like, oh, I can afford that. And then you go and you click on it and then you get the checkout, and your $40 ticket is actually like a $122 ticket, which I really hate, really a lot. And Game Time doesn't do that. So that's a really great feature and my favorite feature on the app. You also get to see the view from your seat, so that makes buying easy. Take the guesswork out of buying game tickets, NBA tickets with Game Time, but also all tickets. I bought other tickets as well from off Game Time, not to brag. You can do it so as well. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. I was out and about yesterday. I was at Queen Anne Beer Hall after the announcement of the NBA is now accepting bids for expansion teams in Seattle and Vegas. And, did a little networking, and, ran into a couple people, and I mentioned, who I'm with, that I'm with David Jones' locker room. And the question I get is, oh, are the Kraken going to make the playoffs? I got that 3 times last night. So seems like it's on top of mind, because, it is like the single most important thing of the season. So if you're like into that sort of thing, I guess. And it is not great, I will say. So I ran some simulations using my expected goal model, and what I have here is that the Kraken are sitting at about 7.3%. In the Western Conference, they are, unfortunately, they're behind in the Pacific Division, and they're behind for the wild card. They only have 12 games remaining, and they're 5 points behind. Well, maybe my model hates the Kraken. Maybe has a vendetta against it. It's a pretty Debbie Downer, I will say. This computer code is not, I would not say, an optimist. Well, I looked at the playoff odds by other people, because, it's important to get a second opinion, or a third opinion, or a fifth opinion. And all of the models have the Kraken pretty low. Money Puck is the highest at 16.4. And then Hockey Viz, which is Micah Blake McCurdy's, is down with me in the DJLR model with in the 7% range. And I think the difference in methodology, my guess is that my model's a little bit lower because it incorporates the most recent year of data, and you know what, it's not important. The nuances between models is important. What's important is everyone thinks that the Kraken's playoff chances are pretty bleak. Now, heading into today's game against Tampa Bay, I ran the simulations there, and if the Kraken lose tonight, then they're down to only 4.5%. If they win, it's they get that up to 13%. So yeah, it's a big deal. And if they lose, then they basically they improve just slightly, and improve by about half a percentage point. So the target here for the Kraken is that they really need to win 9 of their next 12 games. If you get to 9 of the next 12 games, then you are probably okay. That's asking a lot, because the Kraken have not been playing well, and winning 9 of 12 is not exactly the easiest thing to do for a team that is currently very challenged. I mean, they could go 8-2-2, but they need 18 points is really what they need, probably. So I looked here, and you want to get to really 90 points will get them safe. 89 points, probably there. 88 points is a coin flip. So maybe they get there with 88 points. Right now they have 72. So they could win only 8 of their next 12 games, and maybe they get in. If they miss even a point off that, then it really drops off. So it's really, really important for them to collect every point they possibly can. But then, the question here is, like, how can they win 9 out of 12 when they've been playing the way they have been? Also winning 9 out of 12 just is hard, even if you're been a really good team all season. I don't know offhand how often the Avalanche, who have had the best record, won 9 out of 12 games this season. I mean, the Kraken have done it. They did it earlier this year in December, but now they have to do it again, and they don't have any room for error. And they just lost to a Panthers team that was missing 10 players, and they were an AHL roster, and it took an amazing historical, 3-goal comeback just to get to overtime so you could get a point. And now they have to go in and they have to win a bunch of these games, like almost all of them. I looked at the remaining schedule, and based on how they've been playing, this is what I have here. And they are not favored in any of the games remaining except for against Chicago and Calgary. They're losing 2 out of 3 to the good teams: Vegas, Colorado, Tampa Bay. It's pretty bleak, I will say. Now, they can, right? The aggregate is 11%. 11 is not 0. Or if you pick even, the more pessimistic models, it's 7%. It's not 0. At 11%, that's 1 out of 9. If you had 9 people in a room, and you're like, yeah, one of you is gonna receive some outcome, good outcome. You win $1 million, or you got punched in the face, right? Whichever you're in the mood for. You're not sitting there going, well, there are 9 people. Well, there's no chance that I could be one of those 9. That's impossible. I mean, 1 out of 9, that could never happen. No, it's okay. It's not likely. right? It's more often than not, you're not going to be chosen to win the $1 million or get punched in the face. Or if you win $1 million, you can pay someone to punch you in the face. What you do with your own money is not my business. So it's possible, but it's not great. And that's where the Kraken sit right now. So we'll talk about what happens should they actually miss the playoffs and what that means for this team. But in the meantime, let's just really, really hope that they can pull it together, because it would be really, really disappointing to go through this whole year and end up with not a playoff spot and not a top draft pick. And they end up drafting, in the middle, and they draft 8th. And I don't think that's going to change the trajectory of this franchise, because historically, drafting 8th doesn't. Well, thank you for tuning in to Locked On Kraken. I will be back tomorrow and to talk about the Kraken's big win over the Tampa Bay Lightning. I am manifesting. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Kraken so you get all the latest episodes. You can find me at Davy Jones LR on all social media platforms, or at DavyJonesLockerRoom.com, where we do print coverage of the Seattle Torrent and the Seattle Kraken. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Kraken ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure this is one of your 2 daily listens. For Davy Jones Locker Room, I'm Zaiem Beg, and I will see you tomorrow.